In this lesson, we're going to work on the low-waisted skirt. So you're going to go to File, and you're going to go to File, New, select Print Preset. You're going to click on the letter size, and then you're going to click on Create. Next, you're going to place your Judy. So you're going to go to File, Place as usual. Click on your Judy once to select the JPEG. Then you're going to turn on the template, and then you're going to click on the Place button. So now I have a new layer. I'm going to call it low waist skirt, and then the Judy layer, I'm going to double click on the layer name so I can rename it as Judy. So now I have the Judy layer that's locked, and now I have a new layer called low waisted skirt where I'm going to start drawing. Before you start drawing, you want to make sure that you have your window stroke palette visible. So if you don't see it, you go to Window, and then you display the stroke palette. You're also going to go to Window Layers to display the Layers palette in case if you don't see it. Again, today we're going to be using the Pen tool, the Reflect, the Reshape tool, and the Live Paint bucket. So to find the Reshape tool, you have to go out to the Scale tool and then tear off that menu. And then in order to see the Live Paint bucket, you have to go to the Shape Builder and then tear off that little palette as well. So these are the tools you should have on your screen now. So first I'm going to zoom in and select No Fill and select Black Stroke with 1 point line thickness. So previously the skirt started at the high waist level, which is the natural waist over here, but today we're doing a low waist skirt, so I'm going to start over here instead. So I'm going to use the Pen tool, and I will put my corner point around here. This is a good position for a low-waisted skirt. My next point is going to be a curved point, so I'm just going to click and drag going down in the hip area. Again, don't let go of the drag until you're happy with the preview of the curve. Once you're happy, you just let go, and here's your hip point, which is the smooth point. My last point is going to be a corner point for the hemline. So it's a little bit pencil silhouette shaped, so I'm just going to follow her leg, and then I will just click once for the hem. Again, you're going to use Command and click to make it stop. So now if I click with the white arrow, I can see I have only 3 points. So I have a corner point on top and the bottom, and then I have a curved point in the middle. If the skirt is too long or too short, if you don't like the hip shape, then again, you're going to use the white arrow to move the top and the bottom point, and you're going to use the white arrow to re-angle the handles until you're happy with the skirt shape and length. Once you're happy, you can now reflect this to the other side. So I'm going to use the black arrow, select this line, and then I will click on the Reflect tool once. Then I will press Alt Option key and click on the center front of the Judy once. And then the dialog box comes up as usual. You're going to select vertical, and then you're going to click on Copy. So right now I'm going to quickly join top and the bottom of the skirt. So using the white arrow, I'm going to click and drag a selection marquee around the top 2 points. Then I will hit Command J to join. Or I could have done right click, join. The same thing on the bottom. You're going to use the white arrow, you're going to click and drag around the bottom 2 points. You're going to hit Control J to join it. And now we're done with top and the bottom line. So next we're going to learn a new tool which we haven't looked at before, and it's called Reshape tool. So instead of adding a point in the middle and then dragging it and then converting it into a smooth point, you can do all that using the Reshape tool. So we're going to learn it today so that you'll be able to work much faster than before. So the way it works, you're simply going to use the white arrow, click anywhere on the line in order to see the points. And notice all the points are just white because they're not selected. The next step is to click once on the reshape tool, and then using the reshape tool you simply drag, click and drag with your left mouse going up, and then that'll add a curved point and reshape your line. The same thing on the bottom. So again, first step, select white arrow, click somewhere on the line. You're going to see all the points, but they're not going to be selected. They're going to be white. Next, you're going to click once on the reshape tool, which is this guy, and then you're going to go to the middle of the line. You're going to click and keep your mouse pressed down, and then you keep dragging down using your left click mouse button. And once you are happy with the preview, you let go, and then now you have automatically created a curved point, and you also have moved it down in order to reshape the line. So I'm going to be using the reshape tool going forward because it's a lot faster than what we did previously in the previous lessons. So my next step will be to work on the waistband. So I'm going to zoom in on top, and so I will select with the white arrow the middle point of the top edge. I'm going to now create a copy of it, and then we're going to work on the waistband. So the first thing is use the white arrow to select the point in the middle, and then you're going to click once on the reflect. Then you're going to go a little bit underneath to select the reflect point. So I'm going to press Alt Option and click here once, and then I will select horizontal for the axis, and then I will click on copy. So this will copy the line and put it underneath. So next I will create the bottom waistband. So I'm going to simply select the line that I just created with a black arrow, and then I will go to Command C, Command F, and then I can just use the arrow key to make it go down. So you kind of have to look at the handout to make sure that your proportion, the width of the waistband is correct. I'm now going to click on Alt Option key and then drag the side of the bounding box and let go. So now if you're happy with the waistband, you can then now create the top stitching. In my case, I would like the middle point to go down a little bit. So I'm going to select the middle point and use the arrow key to make it go down a little bit, because it's important to have the same width throughout the waistband, and it's important to have these lines parallel. So this line has to be parallel to this line. Once I'm happy with this, I can then create top stitching. So you've learned before that you can use Control-C, Control-F to copy and paste the line on top, but there's another thing that you can do. If you press Alt and Option key and then you click and drag up on the line, it's going to create a copy for you. Then you can just turn that line into top stitching. 0.5-2x2 is the setting that we're using for the top stitching. Again, if you don't see the stroke window, you go to Window, Stroke to display the stroke menu. So next I'm going to create my pocket. So I'm going to use the line segment tool and then click and drag going down to create a solid 1-point line. Afterwards, I'm going to reshape it to make it more into a curved pocket. So now I will use the white arrow, click on the line, then click once on the reshape tool, and then click and drag with the reshape tool on top of the pocket in order to curve it. Once you're happy, then you can just deselect everything and have a look if you like the shape. If you don't, you can fix it using the white arrow and by moving the points around. Once you're happy, then I'm going to use the black arrow. I'm going to go to Control C and then Control F to paste the line on top. And then I will use the arrow key to move it down a little bit. And then I will use the bounding box to stretch it out a little bit as well. And then I can make sure that it's parallel. If it's not parallel, then you keep moving the white points, the points using the white arrow until they look really parallel and until you're happy. Once you're happy, you're going to turn this top stitching line on, so it'll be dash 0.5 2 by 2. Once you're happy with this, then you can group the top stitching and the pocket. So I'm going to use the black arrow, click and drag over them. It'll select those two lines. I will hit Command G to group them. And then I'm going to just copy and paste them to the other side. So to do that, you're going to use the black arrow, click and drag to select those lines. You're going to click once on the reflect tool. Then you're going to press Alt Option key and click on the center line of the Judy. The box comes up asking you, do you want horizontal or vertical? Well, I want vertical. So I'm going to click on the vertical and then I'm going to click on copy. And now I have copied the pocket to the other side. Next, we're going to create a center front line using the line segment tool. So I'm going to just set my line to be solid, 1 point. And then using the line segment tool, I'm going to just click and drag going down in the middle. I can use the center line on the Judy as a guideline, or I can just use the Smart Guides as well, as we looked at before. My next step will be to create top stitching. So for the top stitching, you can preset your line to be dashed, or you can just change it later. So when you do the fly, you're going to have only 3 points. So do this exactly as I'm going to show you, because then it'll be easier for you to fix if you do it wrong, and it'll be faster. So first you're going to click on the black arrow. You're going to have no fill and black stroke. You're going to click once here for the width of the fly on top. This will be the top point for the fly. Then you're going to press Shift and click once to create a completely straight line. Then next you're going to move a little bit down, and then at the center of the skirt you're going to click and drag going right, which will now give you a curved point. In order to constrain the curved point, you're going to press Shift and then keep going once you're happy with the preview. So press Shift, click and drag going to the right, and then now you have a curved point selected. And now all you have to do is just make it stop. So you press Command and then you click away. Next, we're going to turn this line into top stitching. So I'm going to select it with the black arrow, and then I will click on the eyedropper tool, and then I will click on any of the top stitch dashed lines to change the property of my fly into a top stitching line. So there is my top stitching line for the fly. Finally, I'm going to create a button in the buttonhole, and then I'm done with the front view. So the button in the buttonhole is exactly the same as what I did on my high-waisted skirt. So we're going to use the ellipse tool with the white fill in order to draw a button. So you're going to press Shift, ellipse tool, 0.5 line, and then here's a white fill button. I can use, I can just move it to put it in the center of my waistband. And then I'm going to click and select the rectangle tool, click and drag. For the buttonhole, it doesn't matter whether it has fill or not, but it does need to be centered on the button. So just follow the guideline to center it. And then you're going to select the button and go to right click, arrange, bring to front. So your button will be on top of your buttonhole and it'll be filled with white. And then you can group them together. So I'm going to use the black arrow, drag over the button in the buttonhole, and go to Command G to group them. And finally, just zoom up, make sure the button's not too big or too small, and make sure it's centered on your waistband. Next, I'm going to group all of this together Then I can select all of it with the black arrow, so you just click and drag around it, and then you go to edit, copy, edit, paste. So now I've done this in the same layer, or you could do a different layer if you want, it doesn't really matter. And now I'm just going to ungroup everything at this time. So ungroup will allow me to get rid of the pockets, the button, and the fly that I don't really need to have anymore. I'm also going to get rid of this line as well, and I'm going to get rid of this line as well. So this is all you should have left at this time. And now I'm going to use the white arrow, select the midpoint on top of the edge of my skirt, and then I'm going to go to Command C to copy, and then Command F to paste in front. Once you paste it in front, you can use the arrow key to make it go down. And again, make sure that the width is the same as the front. Once the width seems pretty good, then you can switch to black arrow, press Alt Option key down, keep it pressed, and then you can just drag the bounding box to increase the width of the line. So pressing Alt Option key will allow you to change the line from the center rather than from the side. So when you're stretching out this line, then just make sure that you have pressed Alt Option key, and then you use the bounding box to stretch it out. Finally, zoom out, control minus, have a look, see if it's parallel, if it looks good. I feel it could be slightly wider, so I'm going to use the arrow key on my keyboard to make it go down a bit. And now finally, I'm going to select this point on top and make it go down using the arrow key on my keyboard. So I've used the white arrow, I've selected the point on top of the line, and I'm just going to make it go down a little bit until they line up. Finally, I need to add top stitching now, just above this line. So I'm going to use the black arrow, Command C, Command F, and then I will click about 2 times to move the line up, and then I can change it to 0.5 top stitching. So I can just simply use the eyedropper tool, it's faster. And now I have my top stitching. Now make sure that the top stitching distance is the same as what you did in the front. So in my case, I feel like I just need to go like a tiny little bit down, and it'll be more accurate and more similar to what I did in the front. Okay, so you can just move it up or down a little bit, but again, it might be best if I just zoom in more so I can be more precise. So now if I look, it really does match what I did in the front, so I'm happy with that. I will have to add a dart, so I'm going to use 1 point line, no dash, to just go over and click and drag down to create a solid 1 point line for the dart. And then I'm going to just reflect it using the reflect tool. So click once on the reflect, press Alt Option to click on the center back of the skirt to set the axis. Then you click on vertical, and then you click on copy. Finally, I need to create a vent, so I'm going to just create a line using click and drag line segment tool, and then I'm going to select it with the black arrow and then use the eyedropper tool to turn it into top stitching. Now I'm done with the back view, and so all I have to do now is just group everything together. So using the black arrow, I'm going to click and drag around everything, and I'm going to select group. So here I have my front and the back done, and now I just have to create a copy of this in a new layer so I can use Live Paint to color it. So first of all, I'm going to select everything, both pieces, using the black arrow and dragging a selection box around them with the black arrow, and then go to Edit Copy. Then I will create a new layer where I'm going to go to Edit Paste my copy, and then move it down a little bit. So now this layer, layer number 3, will be renamed to Live Paint. So here's my layer number 3. So now I will select the front of the skirt using the black arrow. So make sure you select all the bits and pieces. So use the black arrow, click and drag around the front of the skirt, make sure everything is inside of that selection, and then let go. So now I've selected the front skirt with the black arrow. Now I have to go to Object Live Paint Make, And then now I have a live paint group created, and I can tell because the bounding box just changed. So I'm going to select the back view with the black arrow. Then I will go to Object Live Paint Make. And now I have turned the back view into a live paint group as well. And you can tell because the bounding box changed, it now has a little X inside of each tiny square. Now the last step is go to your live paint bucket, which is right after the shape builder. So you're going to use the live paint bucket to color in the skirt. So let's say I want to use, I don't know, let's say blue. So I'm going to use the light paint bucket and then click on top of each area. Each area will highlight red, and then I can click with the bucket to fill. This time you're going to have to zoom in a bit more so you can use the light paint bucket to color in these hard to color areas. As you can see on my screen, I really had to zoom in. And then you can just click and add different colors you want. So let's say, let's make this multicolored. It'll be more interesting. And so for your assignment, you can just use whatever color you want to color your skirts. So again, do not color in your originals, leave them black and white. Instead, you're going to color in each piece separately using the live paint bucket in a separate layer. So this way you have the original skirt to go back to if you need.